KCOH Radio came to 5011 Alameda in 1963. Mr. Robert Neekum took the station, he the owner of the station that was bought in 1953, and he moved it 10 years later where they have a Looking Glass studio right here at 5011 Alameda. I will tell you more about KCOH Radio and all the other black radio stations, including Magic 102, 97.9, and the two first black AM station. 24 hours KYOK, because KCOH was a daytime station. It went off at night. They only had daytime license. That means it only comes on in the morning when sun rises, and when sunset, it goes off the air. And I'll tell you, this is Mr. Travis Gardner. Mr. Travis Gardner was a faithful employee of Mr. Robert Neekum. Mr. Travis Gardner was the first black station manager and the first black program director over at KCOH Radio, which was now on 5011 Alameda. Mr. Travis Gardner, he used to open up the station early in the morning with gospel at 6 o'clock in the morning, and Skipper Lee would close the station down at 5:30 in the afternoon with rhythm and blues when KCOH moved on 5011 and everybody fell in love with. And the idol of everybody was Clifton King B. Smith. He the one used to work in the morning drive. He worked against Hotsy Totsy. For the first time when KCOH moved at 5011 Alameda, they got the #1 black rating from, of course, Hotsy Totsy did have the #1 rating show, but in 1963, after they moved to the Looking Glass studio, it was all Clifton King B. Smith. She was the first black female disc jockey. She was at KYOK. See, when KYOK came down here in 1954, they bought their own disc jockey, and they also had their own Hammer name. And Dizzy Lizzy was her name. KYOK patterned all of those names. Those people could not, those DJs could not use that name unless they was working at KYOK. And those names that was patterned at KYOK, such as Dizzy Lizzy, Zing Zang, and Hotsy Totsy, they could not use those names. Those names was Star Broadcasting Company, which came down here in 1954. And they bought their own disc jockeys here. And it was a 24 hour. When KCOH Radio moved at 1430 Alameda, they bought along with them, which used to be downtown in the M&M building when Mr. Neekum bought the station, and with the Looking Glass studio, they had Perry Kane, better known as Daddy Deepthroat. Now they could keep their house, but at KYOK, those names of Dizzy Lizzy, Zing Zang, and Hotsy Totsy did not belong to the disc jockey. They belonged to the organization of the company, which was Star Broadcasting Company. Mr. Neekum bought the station, and with the Looking Glass studio, they had Perry Kane, better known as Daddy Deepthroat. Now they could keep their handle, but at KYOK, those names of Dizzy Lizzy, Zing Zang, and Hotsy Totsy did not belong to the disc jockey. They belonged to the organization of the company, which was Star Broadcasting Company. Here's a man who bought a mountain of soul to Houston, is Skipper Lee Frazier. Skipper Lee used to work the afternoon over at KCOH, and it would come on from 3 to 5:30, and he'll sign the station off at 5:30. Now, stay with me, because I'm going to tell you how all the black radio stations got started. KYOK, KCOH was first, KYOK was second, and then FM came in existence, Magic 102, and The Box. I'm going to tell you how all of those stations, black 24-hour radio station. KCOH was the first radio station, but KCOH had a daytime license, which only allowed them to go open when sun up to sundown. That's why KCOH went off at night. This is Chet McDonald. Chet McDonald was the first black disc jockey to be on the prime time morning drive at KYOK in 1954. Chet McDonald, they named him Hotsy Totsy, which came from Star Broadcast. Rick Roberts is what we know him by. Rick Roberts came to KYOK in 1967. He's the one that took Chet McDonald, Hotsy Totsy, the original Hotsy Totsy, also brought KYOK back up to the #1 morning drive. After all, King B had the morning drive and was beating Hotsy Totsy over at KYOK. And therefore, Mr. Dick Oppenheimer figured it was time for some new blood, and Rick Roberts was trained out there in WBOK out there in New Orleans. And he was transferred from New Orleans all the way back to Houston, which Rick Roberts attended Worthing High School, finishing 1961. All right, everybody. Welcome to Black Radio, the first black radio station. First of all, it was AM before FM, which means AM means alternate modulation. That means the signal spreads out like a bomb. And later on, FM came in, which was a frequency modulation. Frequency modulation is just straight through. That's why the sound is so clear, because it's going straight through. And we start off at AM radio first. And the first black radio station here was KCOH by Mr. Robert Meekum. Mr. Meekum was a jazz musician. And his wife, when he got married, his father-in-law was filthy rich. He was an oil man. And he bought Mr. Meekum a birthday present, which was a radio station. And Mr. Meekum at that time, now, let me remind you, it wasn't no rhythm and blues. No. It was all blues and jazz. That's why you had Count Basie, Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington. Those people were the ones that was making money. And of course, then like, you had the blues, with your Lightning Hopkins, your Bobby Bland, and then your B.B. King. But it was first nothing but jazz and blues. And then Mr. Meekum came and bought the station, which was KCOH, which was originally home was at the M&M building over there on South Main. Where the University of Houston now is. And in 1963, Mr. Robert Meekum bought a building on 5011 Alameda and bought the station from over there on North Main to 5011 Alameda. And when Mr. Meekum father-in-law, because that's where he got all his money from, Mr. Meekum's father-in-law gave him that for a wedding present. And Mr. Meekum had a ballroom, and that's what he was going to play, nothing but jazz on this radio station. And then jazz was going out. And then later on in 1954, Star Broadcasting Company came in, and then that's when the music decided to change. That's why you had Little Richard, you had Fats Domino. The tempo was beginning to beat up. Something you can move on. That's why it was called rhythm, because the tempo was up. And blues have always been there. So they decided to call it rhythm and blues. And in 1954, KCOH decided to do what KYOK, who came to town in 1954, a big corporation run by Star Broadcasting. KYOK had a total of 26 radio stations around the country. They were nationwide. KYOK was not no small company. And all their stations was okay. And in Texas, they had two of them. They had KNOK in Dallas, and you had KYOK in here. And then on the other side of the Mississippi River, all the call letters start with a W. On this side of the Mississippi River, including television, all their call letters start with a K. So then over in New Orleans, he had WBOK, and then in Baton Rouge, it was WLOK, and then in Memphis, Tennessee, it was WLOK. So Star Broadcasting was a big corporation. And when Star Broadcast came down here to open up black radio, 24 hours. Now, KCOH was a daytime station. Mr. Meekum only had daytime license. Daytime license means you open up when the sun go up, and you shut it off when the sun go down. And when KYOK came here with a 24-hour station, black, in 1954, they bought disc jockeys from Louisiana with them, and also their name. That means Star Broadcasting owned their name, such as Hotsy Totsy. That belongs to Star Broadcasting, not Chet McDonald. Dizzy Lizzy, that belongs to Chet. That belongs to Star Broadcasting, not Gladys Hill. That's why when Gladys Hill moved over to KCOH. She could not take the name Gigi with her. I mean, she could not take Dizzy Lizzy with her. That's why she had to change her name to Gigi. And when Chet McDonald was fired to bring in Rick Roberts, then Chet McDonald, and they had to kill the name Hasitatsi. They had to kill the name Zing Zang. And they also had to kill the name Dizzy Lizzy. Nobody can use them names. So, therefore, this is a 24-hour station in 1954. And KYOK was ready to go broadcasting here in Houston. Now, this is AM radio. Now, I'm going to tell you about FM radio. I'm going to tell you how Magic 102 came here. The call letters from Magic 102 when they first came here was KYLX. And it was owned by Monty Laney. Also, the call letters at the box, that was KMFK, which was a top 40 station. But anyway, we're talking about AM, the beginning of black radio and AM radio. And when Mr. Meekum, father-in-law, gave him that money, that's why with KCOH you had a ballroom. That ballroom was not made for people to dance, no. When Mr. Meekum got that building and built that building that his father-in-law gave him the money to build, that building, that ballroom was meant for jazz. But since jazz went out and they really didn't know what to do with the ballroom, so they started having little sock hops there. And with KCOH moving in the black community, because KYOK was, at that time, was on Preston, which was downtown, which was close to 4th Ward. But nevertheless, KYOK and KCOH, when they got started, it was nothing but AM radio. And people would listen to KCOH, especially when the Looking Glass came in 1963. And that's when Skipper Lee, and he bought a Mountain of Soul. And by the way, Skipper Lee, like Eugene Robinson said, everybody had their idol. And my idol was Skipper Lee. He's still my idol today, is Skipper Lee. And I want to thank God. And I want to thank Wash Allen for hiring me to come to work over at KCOH and to work with Skipper Lee. But as we go back to black radio, people don't understand this. And they say, well, Booley, how you getting all this goddamn information? Rick Roberts gave me this information. See, I talk to older people before they die because I know they got a lot of information and a lot of history that they didn't live through, and I gather it. And I put it together and I document it. You know, I thank my nephew, Larry Garfield, because he the one got me set up on YouTube. He the one helped me get this camera that you're now looking through. In 1967, that's when KYOK made a move. Because King B was over at KCOH. And hey, KCOH was killing KYOK. King B was killing the once #1 DJ Hasitatsi. So Mr. Dick Oppenheimer knew he had a good superstar DJ that was from Houston, but he was working at WBOK, which is in New Orleans. And when he fired Chet McDonald, that let me know how cold radio is. I said this on Gene Robinson's show. When he fired Chet McDonald and hired Rick Roberts, and Rick Roberts is the man. Rick Roberts is the reason why you see Tom Joyner with all these people in the morning. You see Mad Haddocks with all these people. Rick Roberts started entertainment in radio, especially black radio. Rick Roberts started that with Rudabaker, and it was a big hit. It was such a big hit. Rick Roberts not only beat KCOH, Rick Roberts was #2 behind KILT, and that's behind Hudson and Harrigan. And to beat them, that's unheard of.